What's up guys, Stark here. In today's video I am doing my character spotlight for Gawain. Now he is going to be a 4-star saber who will go up to level 80, and at level 80 he will have 11,419 HP and 10,173 attack. This will rank him 73rd overall in HP and 49th overall in attack. If you do decide to grail him out, he will end up with 13,845 HP and 12,317 attack. For his star absorption, he's going to have 102, and his star generation is going to be 10%, with his noble phantasm generations being 1.14% on his attacks and 3% on his defense. So he's got slightly above average stats, pretty good star absorption, pretty good star generation, and he's got very good noble phantasm generation for his stats at least. Unfortunately though, he's really not that good of a character, and a lot of that is mainly due to his skills and his noble phantasm, but I'll explain why. I guess I'll explain why right now with his skills. The first one is going to be the Numeral of the Saint EX, and this will increase his attack by 20% for 3 turns, and this will also increase his Buster card effectiveness on open field with Sunshine for 3 turns. So I can imagine you guys will see the immediate problem with this being that he only gets the second half of his skill when he is on open field with Sunshine maps, and that just completely limits him and his use to those type of maps. So unfortunately, you know, most of the times you're only going to be able to get that attack for 20% for 3 turns, which isn't bad, but obviously you do want to get that Buster card increase as well, and there really aren't a whole lot of places that can maximize that. However, if you are going on to that type of map, then he is going to be significantly better and maybe a servant you would be considered using. Moving on to his second skill is going to be the Charisma E, which will increase the party's attack for 3 turns. And this is going to be on a 5-turn charge time at maximum level. However, the attack increase for this is very bad. It's going to start at 6% and goes to 12% at level 10. So you're really not getting a whole lot out of this. I mean, I guess any attack boost is better than no attack boost, but for a 4-star servant, this really is a lackluster skill. It has no additional effects, and yeah, it just really falls short to where I feel like it should be. I mean, Charisma E, like, there's probably 3-star servants that have better attacks than, or attack increases than that. So yeah, this is not a very good skill, and you know, couple that with his first skill, which you're only going to be able to maximize half of it most of the time. He's not really doing too good so far. And his third and final skill is going to be the Belt of the Bertolac EX, and this will charge his own noble phantasm gauge by 20%, as well as granting him critical stars and the ability to grant himself guts for 1 time for 1 turn. So his third skill kind of pulls it back a little bit and makes his skills a little bit better. However, this one does have a big flaw in it as well, and that is the fact that the guts last only for 1 turn, and that kind of sucks because it's tied to his noble phantasm gain. And if you want to get his noble phantasm gain, then you're going to potentially lose out on the guts, because unless that enemy tries to attack him on that 1 turn, then you're just wasted your guts. And you know, if you're using it for the guts, then you could still just, if the enemy doesn't attack him, then it's a wasted skill, and you know, that kind of sucks. If it would last longer, like if it was 3 turns or 5 turns, then it would be a much better skill, but unfortunately it doesn't. It only lasts that 1 turn, and you're probably going to use this more for his noble phantasm gauge increase than the actual guts itself, and more often than not, it's probably not even going to trigger that guts when you use this skill in general. It does have a 6-turn charge time though, which is pretty good, and you do get 10 stars at maximum level, which is pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, obviously this is the best of his 3 skills overall. If you're looking for pure damage, his first skill is better, but you're not going to be able to maximize that too often. So yeah, overall he's got a very lackluster skill set, and they all do have a lot of flaws in them. As for his passives though, he does have 2 of them. The first one is going to be the Magic Resistance B, which will increase your debuff resistance by 17.5%, and the second one is Riding B, which will increase your quick card effectiveness by 8%. Moving on to his Ascension, His first Ascension is going to require 4 Saber pieces and 50,000 Quantum pieces. His second Ascension is going to require 10 Saber pieces, 6 Octuplet Crystals, and 150,000 Quantum pieces. His third Ascension is going to require 4 Saber Monuments, 4 Dragon Reverse Scales, 8 Great Knight Medals, and 500,000 Quantum pieces. And his fourth and final Ascension will require 10 Saber Monuments, 16 Great Knight Medals, 30 Proof of Heroes, and 1.5 million Quantum pieces. As for his skill enhancements, you're going to need 14 Gems of Saber, 14 Magic Gems of Saber, and Secret Gems of Saber. You will need 6 Dragon Reverse Scales, 12 Octuplet Crystals, 48 Dragon Fangs, 8 Spirit Roots, 1 Crystallized Lore, and 27,200,000 Quantum pieces. So I touched on this a little bit earlier, but the order you want to level your skills up in basically depends on where you're going to use them. If you do have uses for him on open fields, then level up his first skill first, and then his third skill, and then his second skill. If not, then go his third skill, his first skill, and then his second skill. Really though, his skills aren't that good, and you probably have better options as far as sabers go that you can use instead of him, so you're probably not going to be leveling up his skills too often anyway, unless he's like one of the last characters you have to level up. As for where to find the items to level up his skills and his Ascension, for the Dragon Reverse Scales, well, let's pull up the game here and show you the actual map. So, hold on, give me a second here. Alright, for the Dragon Reverse Scales, this is going to be in Babylonia, and we're going to go into Babylonia right here. And it's going to be right here, on this quest right here, Not of Heaven and Earth. And this will grant you, I haven't actually gotten one to drop from this yet. It does have a pretty low drop rate, so you're probably going to be better off getting these from events. But if you do need one, if you're in desperate need of one, this is by far and away the best. But even though it is the best, it is definitely not a good one to do. You know, it has 161 average AP per drop, so, you know, if you need it, this is what you gotta do to get it. The other one, the next best one, has 500, so you definitely don't want to do that. But yeah, this is the only one available on story that you can get to farm, so if you need one, that's the place to go. For Octuplet Crystals, we're going to go to Camelot, and a lot of Camelot has really good farming spots. So the first one is going to be in the Holy City. So let's go find this on our map here. Right here on this quest, I haven't done it yet, but this is going to be the best spot to find Octuplet Crystals. It's going to have a 73 AP per drop, and there's a bunch of other quests as well, but none of them have, you know, as good as AP drop as that. But staying in Camelot though, you can also find the Great Knight Medals. This is going to be in the Royal Castle, so this will give you a very good chance, you know, 57 AP per drop of getting the Great Knight Medal is going to be a very good one. There is another one in Camelot as well, and that one is going to right here in the main gate. So this one, they're both about the same. One has 57, this one has 61. So whichever quest you find easier, they're going to pretty much get you the same amount of drops in the same amount of time. So yeah, pretty good spots here. As for Spirit Roots, we're going to have another one in Camelot. So this is also going to be right here in the Holy City. It's a pretty good quest to farm for drops. Now, Spirit Roots do have a higher drop rate at 162. So you might not be getting too many of those. But, you know, it is a pretty good one. It is the best one in the story. So if you can't wait for events, it's going to be a pretty good spot there. As for Dragon Fangs, that's going to be over here in America. So we do have to go back a little bit. And this one's going to have really good drop rate. It's going to be 27 AP per drop. And that's going to be right over here in the New Chicago quest. Again, you know, I haven't done it, but it does have a 27 AP per drop. So it's going to be a pretty good one. And then finally, for the Proof of Heroes, we're going to go back to Okeanos. And it is going to be on the pirate ship. So right here, on this quest right here, is going to be your best chance of getting it. 20 AP per drop, so it really shouldn't be that hard to get. So yeah, those are the best spots for farming the Ascension and Skill Enhancement materials for leveling up Gawain. So now moving on to his command card deck and his Noble Phantasm. For his command card deck, he's going to have 1 quick, 1 art, and 3 buster, with the hit counts being 2 on the quick, 2 on the art, 1 on the buster, and 5 on his extra attack. So if you can get him on an arts chain, then you're going to get a pretty good amount of Noble Phantasm generation there. As for his Noble Phantasm, I'm going to go ahead and show you the clip for it. So as soon as that is done, I'll see you guys back here in a couple seconds. Alright, we are back, and as for his Noble Phantasm, what it actually does is it's going to deal damage to all of the enemies, as well as sealing their skills for 1 turn, and on the overcharge, this will also inflict a burn on them for 5 turns. So this is a pretty good Noble Phantasm that's saved by its effects. It doesn't do that much damage. It's actually one of the weaker Noble Phantasms for sabers, but it does have a very good effect being able to seal their skills. Now it's not chance based, so it's going to trigger, and you also be able to inflict burn on them for 5 turns. So really good effects with mediocre damage. So it kind of balances out to a pretty solid Noble Phantasm. He's pretty useful for like earlier wave farming and things like that. You don't want to use him too often in like harder fights unless you need to use him for his the ability to seal the skills or for the burn. But again, more sabers are better than him as far as like damage goes for his Noble Phantasm. So he's really not going to see that much play. You know, you could probably opt for any of the sabers really, like the Artoria Pendragon characters. I'm pretty sure all of them do more damage than him as far as Noble Phantasms go. As for some of the craft essences you could use, but first up is going to be his maximum Bondcraft essence, which is going to be the Gringolet. And while equipped, this will increase Buster Card effectiveness of all of your allies by 15%. So, you know, your standard generic Buster Card increase there. You could also go with the Holy Knight Supper, which will let you start the battle with 30% of your gauge filled, increase your critical damage by 10% and your Noble Phantasm damage by 10%. And on the maximum limit break, you'll get 50% of your gauge filled, and you'll also increase your critical damage and your Noble Phantasm damage by 15%. So this is pretty nice. You know, getting your gauge filled is always very helpful, and he does have that own he does have a skill that increases his own gauge as well, and you do increase the amount of damage he does by a little bit, so that'll definitely help him considering he does lack damage for his Noble Phantasm. And being able to increase your critical damage is always nice. He's got pretty good star generation and star absorption, so he could make some pretty good use of that as well. Next up is going to be Victor of the Moon. If you decide to just more or less forego his Noble Phantasm and just use him as a like Buster Card damage dealer, then you can go ahead and use Victor of the Moon for this, getting the Buster Card increase and the critical strength increase. Obviously, it would take a little bit of work to get this one to work. You know, you will have to have some sort of setup to get stars and increase his generation to make sure he gets those stars, but he could make some pretty good use of Victor of the Moon. And then finally, you could just go ahead and use the Limited Zero Over to get the overall increase to the Buster Card effectiveness of 25% or 30% at max limit break. Moving on to some of the servants that you could use with Gawain. First up are going to be the rare recruit characters or limited banner characters. First up, obviously Merlin. Anytime you have a Buster servant, Merlin is going to be in the conversation, and he's going to be a fantastic servant for Gawain, being able to increase his Buster Card effectiveness, being able to get him stars, being able to heal him, being able to grant him invincibility, so you know he can have a little bit of survivability. All of that, you know, comboed into a nice package. Merlin is going to be a fantastic servant for that. Nightingale is also going to be another good option. She's going to be able to increase his Buster Card effectiveness. She can heal him, you know, keep him alive a little bit longer considering he does lack that survivability. So she's a pretty good option there. As for the free-to-play characters, first up I'm going to have Edward Teach. He does have the Voyager of the Storm, which will grant the ability to increase Gawain's attack and his Noble Phantasm damage. Now, it's only for 1 turn, but they'll both be very helpful in increasing the amount of damage Gawain can do. You know, his Noble Phantasm doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so you can use that and get his little bit of an attack boost as well. He also does have the ability to heal, so again, this will go back into helping Gawain stay alive a little bit longer, considering he can't keep himself alive outside of that 1 gut skill. So overall, it's a pretty good combination there. He also does have a Noble Phantasm that will grant critical stars as well. So overall, I think Edward Teach is a pretty good character to combo with Gawain. Another good free-to-play character is going to be Leonidas. He's going to be able to increase Gawain's Buster Card effectiveness as well, which is pretty much a common theme. You definitely want to take someone in who can increase his Buster Card effectiveness. He can also grant himself critical stars on his Noble Phantasm, as well as taunting the enemies, so this will once again keep Gawain alive a little bit longer. And you know, you could tank a Noble Phantasm hit with him, and then you don't have to worry about Gawain's guts not working because you're not going to be using it more or less on that turn. You're going to be using it to get your Noble Phantasm gauge filled. This will be a good way to keep him alive a lot longer, as well as increasing his overall damage that he dishes out. As for his overall rankings though, for stats, he's going to get 4.5 out of 5. You know, him being a 4-star servant, he does have some decent stats, especially in the attack stat. He's got relatively high attack stats, top 50 overall. He does have a little bit lower HP stats, you know, ranking 73rd overall. But it about balances out there for 4.5 stars. For his skills, he's only going to get 3.5. I was really thinking about dropping him a little bit lower, but you know, if you are playing on an open field with Sunshine, and you know, that's going to be a really good combination there. You get a ton of extra damage if you're playing on those maps. So I do have to factor that in a little bit. And his third skill is pretty good, even if the gut skill is pretty much wasted because you're never going to use it. And he does have an attack increase as well. You know, it's not a big one, but like I said, it is better than nothing. So I didn't want to be too harsh on him and gave him a 3.5 overall for his skills. His Noble Phantasm is going to get 4 stars, and this is primarily because of the effects he has. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but he does have a couple of really good effects there on the Noble Phantasm, being able to zeal skills and inflict burn. So that carries it a little bit higher to the 4-star ranking. For his survivability though, he's getting 3.5. He does have a gut skill, but as I've said quite a few times in this video, it's probably not going to trigger too often in the fight, if ever. You know, you're primarily going to be using it for the Noble Phantasm gauge increase. Now, you could wait until he's about to die and then use the skill and then get the gauge increase and potentially have the guts to go off, but then you're wasting potential uses of your Noble Phantasm, and really it's just not worth it to do it that way. So more often than not, you're not going to get his guts to trigger, so he's reliant pretty much on his HP stat, which isn't really that high, but he can get by. As for his versatility, he's only getting 3 stars. Unless you're playing on an open field with Sunshine map, then you're probably not going to use him. So he really can't fit himself onto too many different teams. And even if you are playing on those maps, you might not want to bring him just because there are probably better options. And yeah, he doesn't really contribute anything to his team. He does have that charisma buff, but it's really bad. You know, it doesn't give you a whole lot of attack increase anyway. And outside of that, he doesn't offer anything else to the team. So yeah, 3 stars. And that'll give his overall ranking a 3.7 out of 5. Unfortunately, he's not really that good of a servant, and this is a shame considering when you fight him in the story, he is massively overpowered. And why couldn't we have gotten that version as the character instead of the one we got? But maybe he'll get some strengthening quests or some interludes to help buff up his skills, and then all of this will go away. Let's hope for that. Until then, though, he's probably going to be collecting a lot of dust in your box. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So thanks for watching. As always, if you did like the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And I do have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord. So check those out, and I will see you guys next time.